We expect the allocation of African pension fund to develop over the next few years for four simple reasons. The first one is that the allocation to private assets is currently very low. And when we compare that to international standards, we think that there is huge room for more investment by African pension fund in private assets. The second reason is that we see over the past few years a strong improvement of some of the private assets fund, which render more appealing the private asset class. So over the past few years, I would say the performance was a hurdle, but today we think that as performance is improving, pension fund will be more interested in considering private assets. The third reason, and not the least one, is that if you want to invest in the African real economy, you need to consider private assets fund, because private assets fund in general are the most important contributor to African SMEs. So if you want to develop the continent, we think that investing in private assets, being private debt, private equity, or infrastructure fund, is a key instrument to consider. When people mention the hurdles that prevent African pension fund to invest in private assets, the first hurdle that is generally mentioned is the regulatory constraints. We are not so sure it's the case, to be frank. We think that the private assets industry should do a huge work to give more information about the performance of the private assets industry players. And should it be the case, we think that the pension fund will see the asset class more appealing. It's clear that over the past 10 years, the performance of most of the private asset players was not so great. So we understand why pension funds are not considering private assets. But over the next years to come, we say this hurdle should be removed as the private assets players are performing better. The private assets industry is maturing. And like it's the case in other continents, we expect some of the hurdles to disappear. Maybe one of the hurdles that still remaining is the obligation for pension fund to invest locally or domestically. We see that there are new projects over the continent that enable pension fund to invest more regionally, and we think that this is a good trend. SO Capital Advice is happy to be the sponsor of the PIA conference this year in Mauritius. We expect during the 2.5 days of the conference to network with all the people involved in the development of the investment by African pension fund in private assets. We hope to convey some good message on the improvement of the performance of the private asset fund, and we hope also to discuss with pension fund and their regulators to see how much flexibility could be given for pension fund to invest more in private assets fund. We hope also, thanks to the session we will moderate on the second day of the conference, to explain why it's important for pension fund to invest in private asset fund that are really, in our mind, the best vehicle to invest in the African real economy.